Anyone who doesn't live under a rock has heard of Joe Rogan. The podcast king has been under the limelight for all the wrong and sometimes even the right reasons. This man firmly believes that there is no such thing as bad publicity. But as the saying goes, all legends run their course. Perhaps it's time that the reign of Rogan has finally commenced. So first things first, have the mighty really fallen? The rise to fame is always a steady and slow-paced one, but the fall is always quick and steep. Sometimes it comes from contenders that you never even saw as competition. In this Spotify podcast version of the Game of Thrones, 1 minute you're on top of the world, and then you've been dethroned within the blink of an eye. Something similar happened to the king, or shall we say, the ex-king of podcasts, Mr. Joe Rogan. And if we were in his shoes, we'd be pretty bummed out right now. The thing is, Rogan's rise to fame did not happen overnight. It took him quite some time and a lot of casual and not so casual sort of racism to rope in a unique target audience. Well, yeah, you guessed it right. 71% of Rogan loyalists are male and belong to middle class and middle upper class backgrounds. Most of them are young Americans, entrepreneurs, or businessmen. It was through their support and cash that by the start of 2022, Rogan was officially ranked #1 on Spotify. In fact, Spotify loved this man so much that they signed a deal worth over $200 million just to have exclusive rights over his podcast. Imagine having someone willing to pay $200 million for just your thoughts, right? Couldn't be us. We'd be lucky if someone spared us a penny. But this man operated on a completely different playing field. Well, unfortunately for the Rogan lovers, his reign was short-lived because recently, a surprising new contemporary has pushed him to the #2 spot. And if there's anything that we've gathered about Mr. Joe so far, it's that he doesn't like being second best. Wait a second, the geeks have taken over? What's more surprising to so many is not that this right-wing king with his hot takes has been replaced, but more so the fact that his replacement is quite the shocker. Who would have thought that the internet's most controversial podcast legend would be overpowered by the love and loyalty of a bunch of comic book geeks? Not us. But it's 2022, and being a geek is what's trendy. Perhaps this is why the geeks won the internet tug of war and were able to push everyone's favorite crime-fighting vigilante on top of the list. You guessed it right, it's Batman. You heard it right, no one on the planet is a greater threat to rich, suburban American males than Gotham's very own part-time vigilante, part-time billionaire. It's no surprise to us that the latest Batman podcast, Batman Unburied, has taken over the world of podcasts. When it comes to a battle between political hot takes and childhood nostalgia, nostalgia clearly takes the lead. Batman Unburied unburies all of those childhood memories that so many of us had when our noses were buried deep in superhero lore. On top of this, the podcast has a stellar cast of artists and comedians alike. Hey, they even got Hassan Minaj to play a character called the Riddler. Nothing sells as much as diversity these days, and it's always refreshing to see a local Indian make it big. If that's not enough, then we'll have you know that it is written and produced by David Goyer, who is quite popular in the realm of fiction writing and has produced and written The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. This is bound to add to the popular points of the new show. Hold up, is Bruce Wayne finally getting therapy? Now this was probably the final nail in the coffin for Joe Rogan. He may be able to blow everyone away with a piece of his mind, but the new Batman has a little more to offer. Our old boy is getting help for his highly complex little mind. Yes folks, you heard it. The Gen Z version of Batman is a firm believer in seeking psychological help. In fact, this one comes up with supportive parents who want him to seek help. Sounds like quite the dream, right? Oh, and did we mention that Bruce Wayne has not buried his parents in Batman Unburied, and they are very much alive? Now, you must be wondering what kind of psychological help Bruce Wayne might even need if his parents are perfectly well and alive. Is it even the same without mommy and daddy issues? Or perhaps having mommy and daddy alive creates more trouble for our billionaire playboy than he had previously imagined? The only way to find out is by tuning into the show every week, which is one factor that keeps the viewers reeled in. The podcast offers a promising and gripping storyline with a unique twist on the age-old tale. Anyway, is there any room for revival for our good old Joe Rogan? All of these factors may make it seem like Mr. Joe will not regain his position of power for quite some time now. How often does one lose the throne and gain it again, right? But the thing is, this temporary displacement is not something new for our old man. Last year, he was temporarily replaced by Meghan Markle and her podcast, but was eventually able to swipe her out of the picture. This man always has some tricks up his sleeves that keep the views pouring in. That and the undying loyalty of the cult he has accumulated over the years is bound to spring him back on top in no time. Rogan fans have little to worry about. They just have to wait and watch out for what's next. Who knows? Maybe he has a few more conspiracy theories laying around somewhere. Other news: Joe Rogan unfazed by Meghan's Archetypes. Meghan Markle has set the world of podcasts ablaze with her brand new podcast that is supposed to provide an insight on the female experience of living in a man's world. Of course, the idea struck at the heart of many women around the world, but this man continued to remain unfazed. Even as the show seems to have threatened Rogan's reign on Spotify, the man barely seems threatened at all. It makes sense because Rogan does have a chill guy demeanor to maintain, and he can't afford to show his soft side lied to viewers. But if we were the guy, we would feel at least a little worried that there's a new contender in the market. As for our Spotify king, he simply continued to fanboy over his new favorite HBO series and didn't even bat an eye about the Meghan Markle issue. Maybe that's the only way forward. Competition doesn't seem to impact Mr. Joe, and perhaps that's how it should be. Maybe he knows that he will be back in no time. As for Meghan's podcast, she seems all set and extremely confident about her newest venture, but who knows? Maybe this is just another one of her hobbies, and maybe she'll get over it in a bit. We just have to wait and watch. Batman Unburied, set for a revival. This should come as no big surprise to anyone who has been following the news or has paid even a tad bit of attention to this video. The first season of the show took the world of podcasts by storm. It was able to crown itself the king of podcast shows by becoming #1 on Spotify shortly after its release in May. The first season of the show premiered in 8 languages and was able to make a place for itself in the hearts of fans at a global scale. It stayed #1 on Spotify in 11 markets for about 2 weeks even after its release. With a precedent like this, it's no surprise that the writers plan on releasing the second season of the show pretty soon within this year. We're all just geared up and excited to see what Duke and Minaj have in store for us in the next season. Should Rogan watch out for more competition? They say that the second season is going to be a bit different from the first. The first manages to unbury a lot about Bruce Wayne and his upbringing with his parents, but apparently there's much more unburying that is yet to commence. Let's wait and watch. Is Meghan Markle's Spotify podcast a revenge scheme? Oh, come on. Everywhere we go, we see tabloids running this news, and it almost feels as if these days people would do anything for more clicks. Meghan Markle has decided to start her own podcast as a self-made woman. We really wish the tabloids would stop second-guessing her intent every step of the way. But the latest news is that the idea deeply puts off Prince Harry, and Markle only wants to use the platform to diss the royal family. It doesn't sound like the Meghan Markle we know, but all we can do is speculate. The truth will always remain a mystery when it comes to the matters of these monarchs. That's a wrap for this video, folks. If you want to know more about how and when Rogan was dethroned, or discuss theories as to how he would come back, let us know in the comments below. All critiques and opinions are always welcome. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and for more content like this, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.